Hey folks, it's James and Arlo. Ever wonder how an architect actually starts designing a house or how the iPad changes the game? In this video, I'll show you the rough early sketches I used to get clients excited in the very first meeting. And you can even download the sketch file below and play along with us as we explore site secrets and get creative. So step one is to get Mr. Chunky in the truck, which is always a challenge. Want to come in the truck? Come on, buddy. All systems go so far. Objects in mirror are chunkier than they appear. Now here's the entrance to this property. Back here. And it's got an old road that's been cut in, but it hasn't been used in a while. Yeah, sure enough. There's a log that fell across, but you can see how awesome this site is. It's obviously very heavily wooded, beautiful eastern hardwood forest. And there across the way, across that septic field down there, is the house that we did before that the owner saw. Here's this gorgeous stone wall. These stone walls were all over New England back in the day. That's an amazing story. They're here because of sheep farming. And the sheep farming was here because of the discovery of the special wool from Portugal. And merino wool came to this country and came to the world really because, believe it or not, Napoleon conquered Portugal, and the Portuguese could no longer control whether the world had access to merino sheep. Beautiful morning sun coming through the trees. And lots of outcroppings like this mound here. We're not quite sure what's under there, although we're pretty sure that's ledge. It could be as simple as keeping the house up here, having the cars parked in this area, and then walking right into the house over there. But look at this gorgeous wall. Just keep this here. Make it a part of the conversation. But we still want to maximize that privacy, especially the nighttime light privacy, so that this house doesn't glow too much and can't be seen too much from the neighbor's house. Right, Arlo? Okay, let's go do some design. So as we head back to the truck, we're going to go back to the office and just do some design. Now, don't expect anything great, okay? It's not that I'm trying to create the perfect design in just minutes, but I want to show you in a very transparent way the process that I use to begin to get some thoughts down on paper, okay? Because I need to go meet with the client, show them a couple of ideas. We have their program, but we want to show them how we can work with the site to maximize privacy, both for them and for the existing owners. So that's going to be our challenge. So these are the three quick sketches we're going to be looking at today. This is the first one that I did, and I call this kind of a warm-up sketch because it's very fanciful. It's just getting my ideas out really quickly. And then I began to get a little more sober about it, a little more minimal, because after all, they do have to be able to afford this. So this is all of what I tried to do here placed into a more rectangular scheme. And then ultimately we'll get to this point where this is the presentation drawing that I actually used in the client presentation. And I guess the first point to be made is that obviously I use an iPad for this rather than pencil on tracing paper. And that's for a number of reasons because, for instance, you can't make a mistake. You can use Procreate to draw to scale just like Morpholio Trace. And in fact, the mobility of the iPad, I do a lot of my designing right on my kitchen table. I just get kind of tired of my office, and I like to go different places and see if that sparks fresh ideas. But I think the most important reason I use this is because of the potential to engage your clients when you use video replay. So I'll go in here to the Actions menu, and I'll tap Time-Lapse Replay. And of course, that will instantly come alive and show you retrace the steps that you took. So very often I'll show these to the client or I'll mail them to them later, and they will just absolutely love it. They'll see the thought process. So while we're on that subject, let's go back and I'll show you my thought process, and I'll try not to take too long. But here's obviously the very first clue. This is that driveway we talked about, the cars parking here, the rectangular bar of a house over here. And then it quickly, because remember, this is the warm-up version, it quickly became, well, what if it was more of a crescent shape or a boomerang shape? So it sort of contained that beautiful area to the south this way. And it also began to slope the bedrooms a little bit towards the east here. So I'm assuming that roughly this is east and west and south and north. So I played around with that, and this happens all the time. I just make these little thumbnails. Then it suddenly occurred to me, oh, well, if you did that, and as long as we're living in fantasy land, you could then step these walls of the bedroom and allow each of these bedrooms, even though they're on the north, to have sort of a corner window. So that became very intriguing. And then when I got excited about this one, I just blew this one up. And there you see it on a whole different layer. And then I threw a layer of trace over it, that semi-transparent white that I put on top to serve as tracing paper. Now, I love the fact that you can do this in the iPad. You can keep iterating, push these schemes down, put a layer of trace over them, and just test your ideas. And remember, I'm using no scale here at all. I'm just using my history and learning as an architect to realize how big other rooms are with respect to each other. And here in the master bedroom or the primary bedroom, you can see a king bed that's been in there. So little clues like that will help me stay roughly in scale. I'm developing the kitchen and the dining room and the living room over here, and trying to figure out how the entrance might work, where you come in and there's a foyer, and then you can either go to the dining room or a more formal entry to the living room. And stepping that, a big part of this scheme, of course, is going to be this generous overhang to the south. And again, I'm trying to keep it simple, but I'm getting a little bit out of control here, even I'll admit that. But a lot of times I'll just keep pushing that. And so the thought here was a little walkthrough to break up the masses and make it a kind of an interesting piazza space for the client. And so they could cross over here to get to the office. And then there was a shop here, screen porches. So I'll start I'll start adding details, adding a deck outside of the family room that maybe has the grill because it's close to the kitchen. And I'll put little notes inside these rooms so I remember what they are, because maybe I don't use it for this project, but I always want to remember what I was thinking later on. And now you see me, I'm starting to put that big overhang in, that big, generous south overhang that's going to eventually be fine-tuned to perfectly block the sun, make it a passive solar home, or make it a very passive-friendly solar home, that kind of a thing. And obviously there are going to be some circulation issues here, like how do you really delegate this much kind of an unusual space to a hallway just to get to these bedrooms? But I put off all those decisions because I'm really just trying to have fun and trying to learn. And then it occurs to me that, well, if this is all sort of a butterfly shape, then maybe the elevation can reflect that same idea. It can be a butterfly going up to the master bedroom end of the house to the east, and that means that the bedrooms continuously get higher ceilings, so that kind of makes sense for a house. And over here, maybe there's a second floor over the garage by the time that roof gets way out there. So I think this boomerang shape plus this interesting roof idea and section could really add up to just sort of a contemporary and unusual work of architecture. And to be perfectly honest, that's the kind of architecture I'm interested in. I love the work of Bjarke Ingels. I love the people that are experimenting with architecture and taking it in different places other than the tradition. And now I'm going to just start playing with Procreate. Remember all that ledge on the site, all those little hillocks and all those trees all over the place? Well, I'm looking for a brush that can give me instantly that kind of Bob Ross effect of ledge poking through the earth. And I didn't really find one, but I found this interesting new brush in the latest edition of Procreate. And you can see I doubled the layer there. I made a single layer, but it was very light, so then I doubled it. And again, this is just a drawing for my own purposes, but it's training me in a way to think about how to make equally quick presentations that I'm actually going to show to clients. Now I'll tap out of that and we'll go back to the gallery. And I think when I show you the next one, rather than walking through it this way with a time-lapse replay, I'm going to go switch over to my video editing software and talk about it there so you can see the full effect and I can concentrate and focus in on certain of these sketches, okay? So this scheme is going to be way stripped down in just a simple rectangle with a few details. So I'm going to start with just the simplest sketch of that basic bar. But right up front, I'm also going to acknowledge two very important parts about this design. And one is that privacy issue, where we're going to be back in the woods and we want to minimize the effect of this from that other house. And so you can see on another layer, I have added a layer of that gray violet that I like to use to create that sort of twilight condition. And I'm erasing out from that gray twilight layer to create the brightest spots there. And then even adding some amber color to that to simulate the effect at night. So I know the north facade that you see here that faces the neighbor is going to have a minimum number of openings, but I still want to make those rooms a very rich experience, those bedrooms. And you can see me starting to develop the plan now. First of all, in the most basic way, and keeping a lot of the memories from that earlier process. So when we did the first scheme, we laid out the general layout of the house. We have the general program and flow, and all of that stays the same. But now I'm going to put it just into a simple rectangular bar because I know from experience and common sense that that's going to be the way to make it as affordable as possible. And also from experience, because I don't want any nasty surprises, I'm going to do a very quick, very simple diagram of the section off to the side. I even keep it turned sideways. It's not going to be part of the presentation drawing yet, but it's just showing the basic box of a 8-foot tall bedroom and how the roof might wrap over that and how we might extend that box to create some of the architectural interest of this design. And then I can start a quick north facade study the same way because I now know the heights from that section. I can put in the basic openings and some of the window openings, and you can see the big gestures I've got. I've got this flat bar, but I have to make it interesting, so I'm going to make a large gesture at the entrance, that very tall rectangular volume, and then I'm going to put an interesting chimney at the family room where the glass windows to either side of it that give you a glimpse of the landscape. And I won't lie, it took me years to learn this approach. It's sort of like studying for those tests back when you were trying to get into college or high school, and they told you just to do a little bit at a time and go as much as you could before you moved on because you wanted to get the most number of questions answered right away. So that's why I go next to that overhang, because that's maybe the third or fourth most important part of this design. And it's really a big part of the selling point to this client. This beautiful overhang that shelters the house, that perfectly shades those big south windows from the sun, and it's going to be a major feature of their lives every day. So now I've got that idea of the design documented, this very deep sheltering overhang. And I can go back to the north facade now and make a few changes. I didn't like that chimney from before. I want to add some windows, experiment with adding larger windows, and then you get to my favorite part. I'm all about adding color, but it's not color because these are the colors that I want the client to have, but it's colors to begin to evoke this idea of a very dark, private bar in the woods with just these select few openings that have this beautiful light from inside and the beautiful light during the day when they're reflecting the sky. And I say bar, and obviously I mean house, but it has that shape of a long rectangular bar. And here you can see I'm just experimenting with a few windows. It just got a little boring to me, and I'm wondering maybe there's just a couple extra windows we could add to spice it up. And one of the great things about having elevation and plan and perspective all collided together on this page is that I can now adjust those windows in perspective too and see what that looks like. And yeah, I like this a lot better than just like totally normal windows. And here's the thing, remember when your mom said, well, you can finish your homework and then you can go out to play. Well, I finished my homework. I've got a perspective, a plan, a section, an elevation, a vignette detail, and now I can play. Now I can put some branches in and darken up the trees and darken up the foreground and really pump up this perspective, even though it's only about, 3 or 4 inches across and 2 inches high. And then talk about the advantages of Procreate in the iPad. Everything's on its own layer, so now I can just individually take those layers or group them together and recompose this whole sheet and set up that presentation drawing that I'm going to use, that I'm going to send to the client, that I'm going to have printed out for our next meeting. So you're getting so much mileage out of your efforts. You're getting all these things that you can put together in different ways, recombine them depending on what the message you want to deliver is. And there's the main rendering that has the floor plan superimposed and turned into an inverted image so that the white reads against the dark. And this is only the beginning of the possibilities about what iPad drawing can do for you too. Don't forget to download the free file that comes with this video. You'll find the link in the description below. If you love this kind of walkthrough, be sure to watch the next video. It dives deeper into fast rendering, so you don't need to stay up late, and you can still get ideas across in the most charming way possible.